combine like radicals. We have 4.8 times the square root of 2 plus 1.2 times the square root of 2 plus square root of 2. Now, how do I combine like radicals, especially when I am adding them? Chloe is here with her latest tips and tricks. When we are talking about square roots, we are talking about the radical. That's everything you see right here is the radical. The index is the little number outside of the radical sign, and the radicand is the expression underneath it. When the index is not included, it is always the number 2. Like radicals have the same index and the same radicand. When you are adding or subtracting square roots, only like radicals can be combined. Treat radicals like variables. Add and subtract numbers outside of the radicals. When you are multiplying square roots, radicals need the same index but not the same radicand to be combined. Multiply the radicands and multiply the numbers outside of the radicals. Now that we have Chloe's little tips and tricks here, we can go ahead and start this problem. The first thing she wrote here underneath adding and subtracting square roots is that only like radicals can be combined. A like radical has to have the same index and radicand. And I can see up here that the radicand is what is underneath the square root symbol. So I see that I have 2, 2, 2. So I have the same radicand, but do I have the same index? I don't see an index written on any of these. When the index is not written or it's not included, it's actually a 2 there. We just don't write that. So there really is a 2 here. So all 3 of these radical signs all are like terms or like radicals, so they can all be combined. It also tells me here to treat radicals like variables. So if it helps you, think of the square root of 2 in each of these as an x. How would you combine if it was 4.8x plus 1.2x plus x? And the last tip she gave us was to add and subtract numbers outside of the radicals, and combine those together. So when I started this problem, I went ahead and just wrote the problem out, and I noticed that there was no number in front of this radical. There's really a 1 there, so I thought it would help me if I wrote that in, so that's what I did. This 1 right here is just because there really is a 1 there, we just don't write it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat that square root of 2 in all 3 of those as if it was a variable. So when I do that, you will see that I have the square root of 2 here on the end. Now, one of her steps was to make sure we add and subtract numbers outside the radical. So you can see that we have a few outside of the radical. We have the 4.8, 1.2, and the 1 right here. So I went ahead and added those all together outside of the radical. And then when you add 4.8 plus 1.2 plus 1, you end up getting 7. So when you are adding or subtracting square roots, only like radicals can be combined. Make sure they have the same index and radicand. And treat radicals like variables. Notice how I didn't add 2 plus 2 plus 2. We just treat them like they're variables. And then add and subtract numbers outside of the radical sign.